It is December 14th, 2015. We're going to call the school committee meeting to order. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to conduct the first of our 3 interviews for our superintendent candidates. Tonight we have Jennifer Chapin visiting us. Just prior to this, we had about an hour or so of social time with those folks who were able to visit. And our candidate has been here since early this morning visiting our 3 schools. So it's been a long day, and hopefully we're going to be having a nice, lively conversation to cap this day. So with that, if we can invite our candidate in, that would be awesome. Thank you.
She's not shaking your hand.
I can.
She already knows you.
We already met.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
And you know this lovely lady is a candidate for your superintendency.
Oh, you are? That's good.
And that's the hot seat.
Okay.
I'm going to
Okay.
turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank
Thank
you, Pat. Appreciate it. Hello again, Jen.
Hi there.
Good to see you.
Nice to be seen. Thank you.
I just very briefly introduced you and mentioned your name, but hopefully we're going to do a little more of that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your entire day here. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you had some good, interesting things to see in each one of our schools and our community.
Yes.
So what we would like to do, first of all, hopefully we can consider this a nice conversation so that we get to know you a little better instead of a very formal question answer session or something like that. The other thing is that thank you for with a very late notice preparing to make a presentation for us this evening. I'm just going to mention that shortly. Also for our visitors, we're going to go by the same school committee rules or ground rules that, this is a conversation, but if you have any questions at this time, if you can hold off on those, if you would like to speak with the candidate afterwards, if you have a few more minutes to stick around, should there be some questions, we would appreciate that. Other than that, let me just kick this off. We hope that this is not going to be more than 60 or so minutes, but if it goes beyond that, no worries. We wanted to do something a little different this time around. Recently, all of you know, but for the audience as well, we worked on a new strategic plan, which included revisiting of our mission, our vision, and along with that, putting together a strategic plan. So what we wanted to start with is a presentation by our candidates of that strategic plan, the way you read it, the way you understood it, and the way you think it should be implemented. I just want to emphasize that there is really no right or wrong, not only on that one, but on any of these questions. All we're trying to do is to get to know you, better understand your perspectives, your experience, and how what type of experiences you had around all these topics that we're going to be discussing. Sure. So that's about it. So with that, I know that you have a nice presentation for us, and hopefully we're going to press that button and it's going to fire up as expected.
It's just a copy of the questions they are going to ask. So
great. So I don't have to write. Beautiful. Thank you.
So for your information, this is how Judy splits the audience usually. Just when
Yes.
she goes and presses that button, the school committee splits.
Can I sit over there? Is that a problem?
Please, yeah.
So
It's assigned seating only,
So I don't know what I'm supposed to do to make this
It
work.
will fire up.
It will.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's detecting. All right. There we go.
So actually, let me just preface
Yes.
this. I did not say anything about that. Our candidates were free to choose any type of technology, any type of software, their own laptop or technology available in our schools to do this presentation. So those of you here or at home who saw the PowerPoint version of our strategic plan, this is left to the creativity or desire of our candidate.
Right. Okay. So I looked over your strategic plan, and I read through it several times, thinking about what you were looking for tonight, and it's interesting to present something that you actually wrote. So it's a very odd situation to be in. I felt that I didn't want to go over what you wrote. You know your own plan. So I picked out just some key points that I thought that I would bring up, and then I thought that I would just go over my impressions in the end. I'll have to excuse my elementary background for coming up with the dinosaur, but that's just elementary school, and that's what we do. We pick a theme and we stick with it. So here we go. So your leadership. I picked leadership as the first slide because I felt like that's where you've already started. So you're well on your way to hiring a superintendent, I hope. And a director of student services would be the next in line as far as what you need to get done. And then establishing a senior leadership team. And I think that the idea of having the senior leadership team be as transparent and as possible and develop that trust in the community is so important, especially in a small school where the community is so invested in small schools. So getting the senior leadership team to embrace and engage with all of the stakeholders in the community is so important. Oh. And then I went to facilities because, quite honestly, when I drive up to any of your schools, it's the first thing that hits you. You look at the facilities and you say, wow, you definitely need a facelift here. And it's not something that, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but certainly you do need to modernize, and you need to make sure that you're creating a atmosphere for students that really supports their learning and helps them to develop 21st century skills. So I think that the plan for your new school is really well thought out. I think it's really geared towards children, and I hope, for your sake, that it gets passed. I'm sure that you're hoping the same thing. And then the plan for 7 through 12 improvements here. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when I came into the building after seeing the outside of the building, because I thought the outside of the buildings was really needed some help. But inside, it really is well maintained, and it seemed clean to me, and it seemed inviting to me. So not that there aren't lots of improvements that are needed, and from what I've heard, the infrastructure needs quite a deal of improvements, but I think that definitely it will help to create a vision for the public and a place where people will want to come. Then I look at technology, and I have to say your technology director has done an outstanding job working with nothing. And I was pleasantly surprised when I went into classrooms today. I don't know what I expected, but somehow I expected those tan, really old computers, and I didn't see that. Yes, they're big and they're clunky, and but they're much more up to date than what I expected when I heard that everything was donated. But I do think that the reality of it is it does our students a disservice not to provide them with up-to-date current technology. And developing a 3-year plan is a great place to start. Allocating funding is always an issue, but I really do feel that that is one area that school choice funds are well spent on. I was really impressed to see that the commitment to data-driven decisions was added into that technology piece, because we really should be focusing on data when we make decisions about student learning and what we are doing in school systems. So we need to have that data to support the curricular needs and make sure that we are using that data effectively. And then we go to curriculum development, and I spoke to some teachers about that today, and it was just interesting to hear their take on what they thought curriculum development was and where they thought that they should be heading, and that they just didn't want to do another cut and paste activity. And that they wanted to really delve into the standards and to better understand the standards and how they are addressed with their curriculum. So that was refreshing to hear that. So establishing and implementing a 3-year plan to make sure that it supports authentic learning is actually, I think, really doable. I think that working on curriculum is hard work and it's tedious work, but it really makes for better teachers, and they have a real deep understanding of the standards when they get done with curriculum work. So, and I think that in 3 years, it can all get done in 3 years. So I think that's really a fair amount of time. So my impressions, I really think you have a solid plan here. I think it's common sense. All of these goals are well thought out, and the problem that I can see with the plan is that they all need to be done simultaneously, and they all have equal weight. So it's hard to choose what to focus on first and how to prioritize any of these things, because they really do all have to happen at the same time. And that brings up budget constraints. There's just not an endless pot of money to do this, and this kind of work takes money. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen on its own. So I think, unfortunately, it does need to be prioritized, and we do need to think about how we're going to do this and what makes sense to do, to take one step at a time. The thing to consider always is that change takes time, that we can't shove these things down people's throats. We have to get buy-in from the community. We have to get buy-in from all the stakeholders. The teachers need to be ready for these changes. And in order to make these changes, a culture needs to be developed. And what I can see is the people that I spoke to today are looking for a cheerleader. They're looking for someone with energy. They're looking for someone with passion and drive to lead them. And they're looking for someone who's going to listen. And once they have that person, and once you find that good fit in a leader, I believe that their commitment will be 110%. I think that they will work tirelessly They all love this district, and I really have to say that this is one of the few strategic plans that I have seen that really makes a whole lot of sense. That there's not a whole lot of fluff in here. That it's really hands-on. It's let's roll up our sleeves and let's get this done. So that's pretty much what I have to say about your strategic plan. I think you've done a really nice job, and I think it's definitely attainable.
Thank you. Thank
Sure.
you very much. So with Thank you, Judy. So with my apologies for doing this a little backwards. We met you earlier, and
Yes.
we had nice conversations with everyone. But for the broader audience, we never really allowed you to introduce yourself and to let us know who you are.
Sure.
So for this section, when we have some questions, if you don't mind, let's start with that introduction, however long you want it to be, and whatever you would like to share. Then we'll go into some questions again, just to generate some conversation.
Okay, great. So I have been in education since 90. I don't even know how long. 86, I think. 86, yes, is when I started. I started out my career in Springfield. I taught at the elementary level, first grade, and then fourth grade to begin with. And then I moved on to middle school. So I taught middle school math for 10, 12 years. And during that time, I became a math coach within the school. And so I taught teachers how to teach math. And while I was in that program, I got involved in a leadership initiative in Springfield, so Project Lead. And they taught teacher leaders how to be administrators. So it was a 2-year program that we went through. It was very rigorous, very intensive. We gave up our entire summer. We gave up, afternoons and evenings. And we were taught by administrators within the system as well as professors from UMass. So it was a nice program to go through. Being in that program allowed me to do a full internship as a principal, which is just unheard of these days. So they actually gave me a paid sabbatical to do 6 months in a school and learn to be a principal. When I was done with that program, I was ready. There was no doubt in my mind. I had the best training that I could possibly have because it was so hands-on. From there, I moved on to Chicopee schools, and I took a position in central office, working under the assistant superintendent in charge of instruction, and was a Title I coach for the entire district, a Title I math coach. So from K-12, I taught teachers to teach math to students. I did a lot of sample. In both Springfield and Chicopee, I was professional development. So I was the presenter. I taught district-wide and did that regularly, as well as learned how to break apart standards and work on curriculum. So I have a very, very strong background in curriculum, and particularly math. But I really understand the standards and how they apply, and how to take a look at curriculum that a district has and work with the tools that they have and break that down and make sure that we're addressing the standards as necessary. I did one year in Palmer as an assistant principal. And what I learned from that is that I'm not supposed to be an assistant anything. I'm a leader, and I'm supposed to be the one in charge. And it's good to know that about yourself, and I do. And I don't make excuses for it. It's just what I do, and I really do very well. And I'm glad that I learned it very quickly. So then I landed in Hatfield, and what a lovely place to land. It is absolutely not what I had any experience in, but it was so incredibly refreshing to land in a small town and to learn to work in a small town. And what I discovered from working there is that I am a small town girl. It's where I belong. It is my niche. And I should have started there, but I didn't know any better. And you take a job where you can find it when you get out of school. So that's what I did. But and I wouldn't do it all over again. I wouldn't do it any different because I really learned from everywhere that I was. But I really enjoy small town, and being an administrator in a small town. I have learned to do everything because I have to wear every hat. There isn't any hat that I don't wear, from shoveling the roof to unclogging the toilets to driving the bus and doing lunch duty and recess duty and curriculum and the budget. So I feel that I have a really broad knowledge base coming into a first superintendency. There are areas that I don't excel in, but I know what they are, and that's important to do. That's important to know as well. So I know what I need help with, and I know that it's important to surround myself with good people, and that's what I have done in Hatfield, and that's what I would propose to do in Granby. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm really honored that I was actually chosen as a finalist. So it's nice to go through the process. So.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will start with the questions.
Okay.
And the way we're going to do this, again, just very informally, we're just going to go through some questions. And each one of us will have some for you.
Mm-hmm.
If the questions are not clear, please don't hesitate. Just ask us to clarify so that you don't have to answer a question that is not clear.
Okay.
Other than that, there is really no other constraints around these questions. Just feel free to share whatever you would like to share around the topics and the questions that we have.
Okay.
So the first few questions are related to budget and finances, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned some of those during your presentation based on your reading of our strategic plan as well. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to read the small paragraph that we have here. Currently, Granby Schools work with the Management Solution, and this is a company, the contracting company that we are working with, and they are providing business manager services to us. And a business manager is on site 2 days a week and available via email or phone beyond that. We have a full-time payroll and employee benefits coordinator and part-time account payable and receivable clerk. So based on that quick context, I have a couple of questions to start with. How hands-on are you with developing and managing budgets? Again, this is obviously based on your experience that you already mentioned. Can you please share some of those examples and give some details around that?
Sure, I can. So my experience with budget is at the school level, of course. However, what I have experienced is that we start with last year's budget, we look at it, and we sit down as an administrative team and we talk about what we need, what we want, and what each line item would have to increase by, or decrease by, ideally. We definitely look at the least impact on children. So if we have to if we have to trim things away, what's going to have the least impact on kids? And so we keep that at the forefront always. I really take a team approach to the budget. We talk about it. We talk about outcomes. We talk about goals, and we try and prioritize as much as we can what the biggest need is, down to the smallest need, and then we sit on it for a while, and we kind of chew on it and think about it for a few weeks, and then we sit back down and re-examine. So there's a lot of re-examining that goes on with the budget and the process. As far as managing budgets are concerned, the budgets are kept right. We keep a binder in our building. Nothing's done online. We still have a great big ledger books that come out, and everything is done in a ledger book in Hatfield. And we keep track of those line items, and it's basic accounting. We just subtract every time we spend something, and so we always know exactly what are in our lines at any given time. So managing budgets for at the school level is fairly easy, because it really comes down to what have you spent and what's left, and can we afford to spend anything more. I have experience also with managing a grant budget, and keeping track of that and understanding the parameters of the grant and knowing what you can and you can't spend money on. So, but that really boils down to the same thing too. It's, whatever you spend, making sure that you're putting in for the reimbursement for it after the fact, not before. You can't get money until you've actually done something. And keeping a close eye on the bottom line and making sure that you don't overspend. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this came up as you were
Yes.
visiting today, but we have a new accounting system in our school district, and we did not start using it yet.
Yeah.
The town has it, but we're going to start using it in the near future. So our systems will be merged with the town at that point. What would be your approach to becoming familiar with a system like that, with this new accounting system, to help yourself?
Well, I would hope that there is a test program. Oftentimes when you purchase a program, there's a training module to go through. And that's what I would hope that there would be. However, if there isn't, then I would say that, I'd have to go to town hall, and I'd have to sit next to someone in town hall and get a tutorial on it. I don't know really, unless I'm sure there's a manual that goes with it, but who has time to read through a manual? That's there for a reference. That's not there to train with. And I'm a very hands-on person, so I would try and get into the program and search around in it. I'm not afraid to do things like that. I know better than what to ever push send, but I think that it would just be an opportunity actually to get to know town hall people better too, and spend some time with them. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I will turn to Jen for the rest of the questions in this section.
Just kind of dovetailing off
Sure.
of that. So what role do you see for the business staff?
Well, first of all, they have history. They know what's been going on here for years. They know what's been done. So I would certainly default to them. I would be sure to use the people at that are working here. The management solutions. definitely count on them to help me along the way. I will say that budget is not, something that I have experience with other than at the school level. I've looked at the budget and we've talked about the budget at the district level, but you can never have experience with it until you're actually the superintendent. So I would really default to those people that do understand. I think that's what good leadership is. You find the people that can help you and you surround yourself with them and you use them to your advantage. So
what would you say your rapport with them would look like, or how would you foster that kind of a relationship?
I think transparency. I'm not going to go in there saying, I do know what I'm doing. I don't. So you do. Help me. I think that people are very willing to do that and like to feel valued and like to feel needed. So I would think that they would welcome that.
And what methods would you use to share important financial data with them?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure if it would be face-to-face meetings, whether it would be email, whether it would be memos. I think it would depend on the circumstances, quite honestly, that you have to take things as they come. And if they're part-time people, then you'd wait for them to come in, unless it was something that was pressing. And if it was an immediate, then you pick up the phone and you call. As far as the business staff, the staff in the superintendent's office, they're right there. So you can go to them, and I would go to them right away and talk. But I think, again, transparency and being really open and honest at all times.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up to that. Considering you mentioned, your budget experience is at a school level and not a district level, what would your expectation be to feel comfortable in that area? As far as your learning curve, what would you expect for yourself?
I would expect myself to catch on very quickly to it. I mean, I have I've been a math teacher for a lot of years, and I understand it. I think that it's just, I would look at percentages of increases and those type of things. Like I'm not sure. I'd need to know more information in order to better understand where we would need to make increases, where we could look to make cuts and things like that. So when developing the budget, I would really count on the people around me to help me and to lead me through the process. But I really think it's a team approach, and but I don't anticipate it taking a very long time to catch on to it. I think that I'm pretty quick, and I can adapt pretty quickly to these kind of things. I learn pretty quickly.
Thank you. My turn. Hello again, Jen.
Hi.
Let's get away from the budget issue.
Okay, thank you.
Money issue. Take a break from that for a minute. And these sort of questions deal with in terms of culture, district culture, leadership, and so on. So, and you referred to this a little bit in your comments on our strategic plan, but basically, overall, and I know you've worked to do this at the Hatfield Elementary School. Now, look at us as a district, and what type of culture would you really want to foster and be present in the Granby Public Schools?
Right. I think a culture that that definitely values children, that values collaboration, that is positive and is invested in providing the very best that you can for the children and the employees, of Granby. I think that people need to feel valued. They need to be heard, and they need a cheerleader. They need someone who is going to say, "You're doing a great job. You're working really hard, and I'm right here beside you, working hard on my end. So let's do this together." So that that team approach, and I tend to be a person that is very, very positive. I always can find the silver lining, and I can always find the glass half full. And I think that that's infectious. And I think people get that from me very, very quickly, that I have this energy that just doesn't stop. So,
Good.
Yeah.
And as you know from our visits today, that presently, at least for, I'm being positive now, at least for a few more years, we've got the breakdown of K3, 4, 6, 7, 12. But hopefully in a few years it'll be K6
Yes.
and 7, 12. Jumping the gun here, but not that's a barrier, but sometimes the grade levels being broken off in 3 different schools sometimes creates a barrier. Something maybe gets lost, or it's hard to get. We think we communicate, but maybe we don't. So how would you deal with those barriers, we call that, between the grade levels classes and the schools?
Right. Well, I think that we need to establish common goals and really aligning curriculum so that it is it covers all of the grade spans, so it has a very natural progression, and establishing expectations from grade level to grade level, and fostering those conversations so that the 6th grade teachers know what the 7th grade teachers are expecting when the children come across to this school. That I really think that conversations with teachers are so important, and so that everyone understands each other. And so expectations is, I've found over the years that breaks down the barriers. When I first went to Hatfield, we were really 2 separate districts. We were the elementary district and Smith Academy, and we never did anything together. And so we, as an administrative team, we decided that just can't go on that way. We needed to be cohesive. And so that's what we did. We started having professional development together. We started doing things as a district rather than 2 separate schools. We created a district-wide writing rubric. We did curriculum mapping together with the 5th and 6th and the 7th and 8th grade teachers. So we wouldn't let anyone work in isolation. And so that forced everyone to be, to let down their guard and to consider what was happening in other grade levels. So it's been very effective in Hatfield, and I would assume that it would be very effective in any school system, quite honestly.
Good. Well said. Thank you. And the last one in this category, encompassing everything, how would you then go about building the trust, unity, and positivity amongst all the staff in the Granby Public Schools?
Right. Well, I think you need to lead by example. The superintendent has to be there and has to be present, has to be visible, has to be in the schools, has to be listening to everything that everyone is saying, needs to be the face of the school department. And so they need to be present in town functions. They need to make sure that they're communicating and that they're transparent. So in as many ways as you possibly can. So, considering that, yes, we're in this age of technology, that's great, but it doesn't meet the needs of all the stakeholders in town. So making sure that, that you're at the senior center, making sure that you're visiting town hall, that you're at town activities, fairs and things like that, and that you're seen all the time. And so I think that once you lead by example and you show the staff that you're that you're enthusiastic and that you're really selling the place, and that education has become a business, and unfortunately, but it is what it is, and you really have to be the PR person for the school district. And so I think that you build that trust and that unity by putting yourself out there and letting the teachers see that I'm putting in 110% to meet my end of the bargain. You need to meet your end, and listening to what they have to say and to the history and where they're coming from is so important, because they need to be heard. And the teachers and administrators and the paraprofessionals, right down to the custodians and everyone that works here, they all have a piece of history, and they all have a piece and an opinion on how they think things could work better. And so they need to be heard. Sometimes you don't need to do what they say, you just need to listen, and you need to let them know that you heard them. So
Thanks for that. And you must have forgotten off your resume that you must have been a cheerleader somewhere in your past.
I wasn't. No, I'm too klutzy to be a cheerleader.
Well, you probably would have made a very good one.
Thank you. I have the voice for it, huh?
Thanks, Jeff. Dan?
Oh, okay, I'm up. I was thinking about it. I had a follow-up on the other one. Sorry. My mind is somewhere else. Just getting back to the culture piece.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned words in your presentation that the culture needs to be developed first.
Yes.
You need passion, drive. You need to be a cheerleader. You mentioned that a couple of times. And value children, collaborative, positive, invested. I'm just curious if you can talk in more depth about how you would go about doing that. Because, doing it at a school level is
Sure.
very different from doing it at a district level. So I just want to know how the skills would translate.
Right. I'm not sure that it's all that different, quite honestly. I think in a small district, a superintendent in a small district has the ability to be in schools. If a superintendent in Springfield isn't going to schools, they're sitting in their office and they're doing grants and they're writing and they're signing papers, and but in a small district you get into the schools, which is the beauty of it. And if people see you in the schools and they really know that you do know what's going on, that you're not sitting in an office and saying, oh, I know, they've been telling me. No, you see it firsthand yourself. That makes a huge difference to people. They need to know that this superintendent here actually knows what's going on. They've seen it firsthand for themselves. So I really don't think it's much different than being a principal in a school just because this district is so small. If it was a larger district, I would say, oh, it's really hard. But I really think that this is a wonderful opportunity to be one of the rare superintendents that is actually a hands-on superintendent and in schools.
Okay, thank you. I'm up now. Okay, so this question is around communication and leadership. What information do you believe should be transparent, clear, and accessible in order to build the credibility of the school district and win support from parents and community leaders?
Well, I think the question would be easier if it what doesn't need to be transparent, because there's so much that you need to be transparent about. I think that personnel issues are just off the table, and that's something that people don't need to know about. But I can't think of too many things that aren't on the table that people don't need to know about. They need to understand what it takes to operate a district. They need to understand the needs and the changes that have happened over the years in education, and the expectations for students, and how we've upped the ante so much. And I don't think that the public has a very good understanding of that. So there's a lot of education that has to happen with the public so that they do understand how much needs to be done with children these days. I think that the credibility of the school district and you just need to be true to your convictions and know that your decisions need to be based on children and what children need, and then to stand firm and don't back down by the few naysayers. I think that there's always going to be those people, and you shouldn't do things for the sake of the handful of people that are negative, because quite honestly, the people that don't speak up, most of them are all positive. And if we really looked at the people that are supporting the school system, I think that it would be the vast majority of people. I really do think that people support schools, and they know the good work that you do. Again, with community leaders, it would just be being present and making sure that I have an open door and that I take advantage of their open door, and any invitation that they would offer me that I would take advantage of. Just being an honest and true person is important, and I think that people will respect that, and people will learn to trust. It takes time, but you have to start somewhere.
So the next part to that is how would you prioritize the dissemination of information, and what methods would you use to distribute information?
Well, there are always things that are urgent that come up, and emergencies, things like that, and those are things that need to be need to get out immediately. They can't wait. Things that are security, anything that's dangerous, anything that is a health risk. That type of information needs to get out as soon as possible, and I quite honestly, in as many ways as possible, so that all the stakeholders get that information. I know that you have, a Connect Ed system. I know that you have email. Both of those are really great ways to get out information, but you have to be careful. And I've seen school districts that use Connect Ed for ridiculous amounts of information that are sent out constantly, and so you have to be very careful when you're sending out those type of that type of communication, and use it strategically and carefully, so that it's not the minute you hear a recording that people don't hang up, especially when it's very important information that they need to get. So I would use every avenue available, but I would make sure that that only the most important things and the most urgent things go out in these, blasts of email and phone messages. Other things can go out in blogs. They can go out in mailings. The media can really be your friend in a lot of situations, and it's really important that we share information with the media, and that we're giving the media the information. They're not coming and investigating us. We want to be the ones that are ahead of the media, so that we can control what gets out there and what we're sharing with the community. So I think that oftentimes teachers, even districts, we don't toot our own horn. We don't let people know the great stuff that we're doing, and we need to do it more. And especially in a district like Granby, that is struggling with enrollment, it's important that we use the media to our advantage as really an advertisement for what great stuff is happening here in Granby.
Thank you.
Again, welcome.
Thank you.
Could you talk to us about programs and initiatives that you've put in place in Hatfield that involve bringing the community into the schools, both for academic and social reasons, and how effective you think they were?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the programs that I started in Hatfield is an after-school enrichment program. And it is a program that I started for many reasons. One, we wanted to provide quality after-school programming that wasn't being offered in the community. But I also wanted to provide community members a way to come in and share their talents with our children. I knew that there were people out there that wanted to do these things but didn't have a venue to do it in. And thirdly, I wanted to make sure that I was providing a service to my parents, both Hatfield residents and school choice residents. When you extend the learning day and provide a place for children to be, then that makes being in school, especially for a school choice parent, very convenient for them. And so making our school hours longer is definitely a way that I have attracted a lot of school choice parents, because they see, well, gee, I couldn't do it during normal hours, but if they can stay another hour and a half, well, then I certainly can get there to pick up my child in another town. So we have had tremendous response to these after-school programs. I currently am running 23 different after-school courses just right now, right at this time. So I have community members that have come in and said, I'm a yoga instructor, I'd like to teach that here. I've had people that have come in and wanted to do creative writing. I've had an author come in and done writing with children. I've had chefs come in and teach cooking classes. I've had nutritionists come in that teach the children healthy snacks and work with them. We've taught them to sew. We've taught them to felt. We've taught them how to do rock climbing and Zumba. Really, the sky is the limit. If someone in the community, as long as they pass a Cori check and they can give me a great proposal, then I am happy to have them come in. Provides some income for them, and it provides a great service to our children. It also provides incredible revenue for the school. So I have currently in my revolving account $23,000 that I have generated just from these after-school programs, and that's after expenses. And my accountants are constantly saying, you need to buy things, you need to keep on buying, you need to spend this money, you can't hold on to this. But it's been wonderful because it's afforded us things that I don't have to take out of the operating budget, that they're the nice to have things. They're not necessarily wants. They're still needs, but they're a little bit further down the priority list. So we've been able to outfit the entire school with smart boards as a result of this. We've been able to buy new playground equipment because of it. So things that definitely aren't going to come out of a bake sale with the PTA, and they're definitely not going to come out of our operating budget because we just don't have it. But it meets the needs of the school community, but it also meets the needs of the outside community, and it brings people in. So it's really been a lovely addition to our school, and it really defines us as a destination school that people want to come to because we have so many offerings.
Okay, thank you. And also, how can you envision reaching out to get less active members of the community to be more positively involved in our schools? How would you change the minds of voters as we deal with the new building project?
Well, I think that everybody has something to offer, and they offer it in the way that they best can. People's lives are so busy, and it is oftentimes for the less active members of the community, it isn't because they don't want to help, it's because they can't, or it just doesn't fit their schedule. So I think that there's ways that less active members of the community can be more involved in ways that are different, not necessarily coming in and volunteering or providing funds, but in activities that happen outside of the school day and involving the community in that way. So I can give you an example of right now. Currently, we have music class, and our music teacher offers music class on Wednesday and Thursday mornings, and the preschoolers come on those days to her class. But we wanted to expand, and we wanted to make sure that we were involving the community more in music. And so we invited any preschooler from town, whether they're enrolled in our program or not, to attend our morning classes. And we know that there are lots of preschoolers out there and lots of daycares out there. And this has allowed them an extra thing for the children that are enrolled in their programs, but it has also allowed us to foster that relationship with them. And so now we have, we know who the children are out there. That helps us when we project enrollment for kindergarten and who's coming through. Otherwise, we wouldn't necessarily know who those people are. So I think that you really have to think creatively and think of what opportunities are there for the community to come in. We did an Adopt a Grandparent program and brought the elders that are right down the street into our building, and they didn't know that they were welcome. They didn't know that they could come. Having lunch with the elders, inviting them in for lunchtime once a month. Those type of things goes a long way because people love to see that that we're reaching out into the community and we're inviting people in. As far as changing the minds of voters with dealing with building projects, it's not easy. But again, I think it's a trust issue, and I think it's transparency and educating them as to what we need, what the children really truly need, and what they're not getting as a result of what they're dealing with right now. I think bringing in also other people that are able to speak to the benefits of building a school. So I think, first of all, I think of realtors. Letting people know that your property value goes up when we have good schools, and when you don't, it doesn't. And so it makes sense to invest in schools, to show statistics regarding the performance levels of our school and what more we could do with a new facility and with new technology and just more for our students. And using that data to show, where these children end up, as far as career and college readiness is concerned. So I think it's not an easy task, but it's about getting out there and talking to people and developing those relationships. And that's what small town is all about, is developing those relationships with people and making them understand that it's not them against us. We're all in this together, and we all have to embrace this.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm just sitting here listening, because we're at the end of it. It's great. So thank you once again.
Sure.
Can I ask a
No.
Sorry. This is something that's not on here. It's just something that is kind of in my mind. Can I go off topic a little? Is that all right?
As long as we go off topic each time.
Well, yes, obviously.
Okay. No, I mean on the same topic.
Add the question.
Add the question
Yes,
to the list.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm just curious how you go about resolving conflict with whether it's an individual person or maybe, I don't know, staff members who you might not have buy-in on something. You know, how you would go about the process.
Resolving conflict. I just need a little bit of clarification there. That's okay.
Well, let's say it's you have philosophical differences.
Oh. Okay.
Does that maybe make it a little clearer?
Okay.
And you are the leader. You're in charge, and yet I'm thinking about all those things you said about collaborative involvement and really listening to people. So I'm just curious, kind of springboarding on everything you've said over the last hour, how you would go about resolving, philosophical difference, whether it's in curriculum or leadership style, or
Okay.
does that make sense?
It does. It does.
And we have to foster that question somehow. I'm thinking and talking at the same time. I'm sorry.
I believe that that if you bring every conflict, and I honestly can't think of one that wouldn't apply to this, is if you bring it back to what is best for kids, you win. Every single time. You can't argue with what's best for kids. So, I think that people, I can listen, I can hear, I can understand your point of view, but in the end, we do what's best for kids. That's what we're here for. So if you can't buy into that, then I don't know why you're in this profession, quite honestly. And, we're doing both. If we can't come to a consensus, it's really a shame, but it doesn't do anybody any good to continue that type of relationship. Because if they don't have that same shared vision of doing what's right for children, then they don't, quite honestly, they don't belong in a district working with children. So, it's a difficult conversation, but it's not personal, and it's about doing the right thing for kids. So I can't, I don't know. I don't think it's something to be resolved. I think it's something to point out, to listen. But in the end, it's we have to agree on that one point, and then we can move forward.
Thank you.
Sure.
So if anybody complains it went double overtime, we're gonna point to.
Yes, you
Here,
can blame
thank you.
me. I will take full responsibility.
Cool.
I'm a apologizing publicly right now.
All right. So your question, just to make sure that was specifically related to conflict resolution within the school system.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So again, thank you for all the examples, for sharing those with us, for answering our questions. Sure. So to close, one thing that I personally like about these opportunities is that those folks who are candidates, they get to come to our school district, they get to spend the day. I know it's a day from your busy life as well, but we appreciate it. So this one is an attempt to tie that experience in as well. So since you had the opportunity to visit our district, you met several people, you had conversations with quite a few people here and during the day. Could you give us your impression of the school district? And you can touch upon a few things, if you will. Whether some challenges that you observed, some things related to the way our buildings are, something related to the way you observed things happening, just to incorporate it into your closing statement. You can keep it any which length. There is really no prescribed length to that, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to share with us what you saw today.
Sure. What I saw today was incredibly committed staff. Every person that I spoke to was very, very committed to children. I could tell that they're a little bit beaten up. They feel a little bit down in the dumps, and but they want everything to be better. And that came through loud and clear. Every single person said to me that we want it to be as good as we know it can be, because we know. We all love our job. We all want the very best. And we just need someone to come in here and take the reins and lead us to where we know we can be and into what we know we can achieve. So, that was very inspiring for me. People are very warm here. Everyone was so kind and accepting. Your buildings are, in need. However, I have to say that I was really pleasantly surprised when I went into the buildings. The outside gives you one impression, but once you go inside, they're very warm. They're very well maintained inside. I felt that they were clean. That the West Street School is just charming inside, and I can see how the public would really be pushing back, because if they go inside, it doesn't look so bad. It looks really quite nice, but the outside of the building, so don't ever let them in. Just tell them that they can just circle through the parking lot if people really want to get a good look. But I really felt inspired by your staff, that they're invested and they want to stay here, and they know that people have left and they miss those people, and they understand why they left, but they are really committed to staying and want desperately for new leadership and want it to work out well for them. So it's been really a very, very nice experience for me. I see opportunities here for myself, in that I think that this is a system that values creativity and innovation more than accountability and compliance. I see a district that appreciates and supports teachers rather than blaming them and pointing fingers, and really is very much invested in the children of Granby. I saw a lot of teachers that are just absolutely clamoring for professional development, and they want to hone their craft. They want to be better, and they know they can if they're just given the tools to do that. So that really rang true today in every school. Every single teacher, every single group that I worked with brought up professional development, and that they really want the district to invest in them, and that makes them feel validated as well, and valued, that you're willing to put this time and energy and resources into us to make us better so that we can give our very best to the teachers, to the students. So it's been a really great experience.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Even though we might have a little more challenge to
Yes.
explain the school project now, but that's
Same
as you
thing.
said, we're not going to let them in.
Don't let them in.
Cool. Thank you for that. So before we close,
Yes.
Do you have any questions for us?
I do actually. I have a couple of them. So first, I'd like to know what you would say is the greatest challenge that the incoming superintendent would need to address first.
Anybody?
Ooh. No, I don't want to go first.
So without
many
thinking
priorities.
too much about it, because
Yes.
we obviously live this day in, day out.
Yes.
Without thinking too much about it, I would say the first few things that any person coming into our school district, and it's true for us too, just when we first got into our roles on the school committee, obviously budget is a big issue. Not because we primarily care about numbers, but obviously the availability of funds drives certain things that we would like to do. So understanding the circumstances of the town in terms of its financials, and prioritizing those things that we need the most is very, very, very important. But with all that, since you asked challenges, this is not a challenge necessarily, but it is a challenge necessarily for Granby, but it's a challenge for any community. And one of the questions was related to that. That culture component. How do we understand the culture well enough to be able to address their needs? Because you said it too, that even folks who may seem resistant to certain things may be expecting some closer contact and all that. But how do we balance it? I mean, everybody has limited time, limited resources. How do we balance that? I think that, at least from my perspective, when I came on, those were the two big challenges. One thing, however, that we all agree with is that we, almost every meeting, have an opportunity to say that the children come first. And that drives our vision, that drives whatever we do, regardless of the challenges that we have in the district.
I have a shorter answer.
Okay.
That's just, I'm cheesy. Changing the narrative. How to get everybody back on the same page. Kind of repairing the ruptures with trust, alliances, misalliances. How do we get everybody to start thinking creatively again? How, as a team, how can we do this as opposed to we can't do this?
Great.
we don't have the funding, we don't have this, we don't, you know, how can we do this? How can we get this done? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I would say along those same lines, when I joined the school committee, my guiding focus was that my job is to help the town fall back in love with their schools. And because of the ruptures in trust or morale, we need that back. We need people to see how wonderful all of our staff is. And when staff is happy, kids are happy. And the community needs to see that and fall back in love.
Mm-hmm.
Because once that happens, it'll be a whole different picture.
I think what you've said, and I think you and I talked about this a bit today, it's just that we need to, and you've addressed a lot of this, to re-energize the people here, to reinvigorate, to value them, and get it out there that, you know, this is a wonderful school system, and it's going to continue to be, even though I think we've been on a little downward slide for a few years, but it's not irreparable. It can be built back up, and that's what I think the staff is looking for. That's what we're looking for, the leader who will do that, and, you know, spend maybe 10 years here and get that back. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it can. Once that momentum is going, it's going to keep going. And I think that's what everyone's looking for.
We are a new school committee composition. So just,
I've only been for a few months,
Oh,
so I
okay.
don't know.
I think, is it Jim or Emery that's been here the longest, or did you guys come in at the same time?
I came first. So.
He's much older than I am.
Great. And then finally, I think I know the answer to this, but I really do want to ask it, is what is the single most value that guides you as a school committee?
As a school committee, integrity for me, I think.
Tough question. Critical thinking. I think we all kind of come at these issues differently, but it all, like you said, you know, what's best for the kids is always our grounding thing, but we can all kind of look at something quite different. So I think critical thinking and the ability to really tear apart a question or an issue quickly, sometimes faster than what I think we're maybe comfortable with. But yeah, I'd say
Integrity and transparency.
Oh, transparency. Yeah.
I mean, that's a very good question, and I have a lot of things going through my head. But overall, it's just realizing we have an important job, but we're not. It's the teachers. It's the teachers who are in the classrooms who work with our kids every day. Those are the ones we need to support, and it's hard sometimes if we can't get the money, but more is needed. You know, it's tough when we have to sit here and say we have to cut this, and what do we have to now eliminate, because it hurts because these people are doing something. So we need to realize that the students are the most important thing, and we have to do our best to make that happen, and all do that in a group. Not favor one over the other, but every kid who comes to school every day is important, and we need to make them better.
For me, at the personal level, I agree with everything that's been said. At the personal level is earning the trust of folks, you know, who come in or watch us and listen to us with the expectation that we're going to do well by our schools. But at the larger level, the reason why I'm here is my belief in education. The role of education in everyone's lives, but especially our kids as they are in their formative years, and my belief in public education. So those were the larger concepts that led me to the school committee.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions.
Sure.
So with that, thank you once again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you spending your day with us, answering our questions, and thank you for your questions. Thank you, all of you, for taking the time to come here. I don't know if you have any time. If you don't, that's
do.
fine. I know it was a long day. But
know.
as I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions based on the conversation that we had, feel free to reach out to Ms. Chapin, and have a very good evening.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.